As an old fan favorite at Epcot returned to form, I was able to join cast member previews today for Test Track 3.0, but it seemed to me when I was on it, they might have forgotten one important part of the ride, the test part.
I hopped on over to Epcot today to check out the new Test Track 3.0, as people are calling it, and thanks to a cast member friend, of course, I was able to get on the ride 3 times today during the previews. I will give a brief spoiler-free review, and then later on I'll have some things I liked, some things I didn't like, and there will be a few spoilers in that section, so just so you know.
For those unfamiliar with the history of Test Track, the original attraction replaced World of Motion and ran from 1999 to 2012. It was sponsored by General Motors and immersed guests in a simulated vehicle testing facility, essentially putting them in the role of a test dummy. The theme started in the queue and continued through the high-speed test at the end of the ride. Test Track 2.0 ran from 2012 to 2024. This time, Chevrolet was the sponsor, and the attraction's focus shifted to more of a digital experience, where you designed your own sim car and then tested it against a test track car. Of course, in 2012, smartphone adoption wasn't yet widespread, so there was a novelty with designing your own sim car. Now, everyone in the queue can basically entertain themselves with access to technology that puts the old design experience to shame. So now what? Enter Test Track 3.0. GM is once again the sponsor, and the ride looks back into Epcot's past to draw inspiration from the original World of Motion attraction that used to exist in this space for a brand new experience. The standby queue has now been extended by taking over the old build your own sim car room. This should serve to allow more guests time to wait indoors, avoiding the unpleasant weather outside. The lightning lane and single rider access remains pretty much the same and follows the old route. The first room of the queue has an old concept car and 2 new cars. It feels not too different from Test Track 2.0. What I really love about this room, though, is that they added back the window that lets guests in the queue see cars as they approach the seatbelt check, and the people in the cars see the guests in the queue. I think that's a really nice feature. The new area of the standby queue is a mix of sustainability messaging and then a preview as a part of the new attraction. I don't want to get into too much more detail here, other than to say I understand what they were going for. There's videos, they play, they add a little context to what you're seeing in the queue. However, I can't say whether it was effective or not because most of it wasn't working when I was there. I do also appreciate the sustainability, and I like seeing the technology that GM is incorporating into their electric vehicles. All right, on to the ride itself. The loading area has been lightly rethemed. New lights, new carpet, some new paint gives it a more intimate feel, but it's basically the same as what you remember from Test Track 2.0. It's also the same vehicles, and the exact same track layout, and the exact same car motion. But the scenes have all been changed and updated to tell the new story. I don't want to get into too many spoilers here, but I thought it was a good update, with a few exceptions I'll get to shortly. There is one room, however, towards the end of the dark ride that I just want to soak up. I would spend an hour in there. Unfortunately, it goes by really fast. Let's just chalk that up to Imagineers designing for repeatability. I would like to know if there was any discussion about changing the name of the ride. Test Track 3.0 is so far away from the idea of passengers playing the role of a test dummy that there isn't actually a single test in the entire attraction. It's more of a look into the future of what General Motors wants Epcot guests to think is coming for their personal vehicles. It's now more of a celebration of the technology that GM has developed and the journey itself. All right, before I get into nitpicks and kudos, first, another spoiler warning. I will be discussing elements of the attraction and the area that you may not want to hear, so feel free to like and subscribe and click to another video if you don't want any of those spoilers. Okay, let's start with a few of the things that I'm not exactly happy with. Starting with the marquee. Rocks around the marquee? Did Epcot Landscaping run out of money in their budget? It just seems a little sparse. There is a story to the attraction, but it appears to be General Motors is demonstrating new technology for its cars, which is fine. There's a certain portion of Epcot fans who would love to see the park return to its industrial sponsor-led days. But it's not a story like we've come to expect from other recent attractions in Epcot, such as Remy's Ratatouille Adventure or Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. On the other hand, it's technically an original story, not Disney IP. So let's maybe move this one to the win column. The wireless charging road section reminds me of the room from Indiana Jones Adventure, where it's completely dark. Remember that? While building Indiana Jones Adventure, Imagineers were actually told didn't have money to add vines to the queue, which they felt would have taken guests completely out of the story. So they nixed the theme in that one room and put the vines in instead. You know, if you ever find Tony Baxter and corner him at a convention or something, ask him about this. It's actually a really good story. But in Test Track, the wireless recharging stretch on the ride comes right after this really impressive LiDAR scene. And it's basically a series of lights and a small track that lights up to the left and right of the car. So yeah, there's a black curtain. You can't see the next scene before you get to it. You know, I would have liked to have seen this done better. Just a little more money spent there would have made a big difference. And then there's this overlook in the fourth scene. It goes by really quick. There's not a lot of dimension there, and you can actually see some of the support structure. Maybe they're going to fix that before the ride officially opens. So that is a really nitpick, but I would have liked to see more dimensional feel. All right, let's move on to kudos. First, General Motors and Imagineering have leaned heavily into the greener future, centering electric vehicles, personal vehicles that are right-sized for the road, and even a few updated safety features that will come with self-driving cars. We definitely need more of this, even if I quibble with the focus on cars that carry a few passengers instead of the much more efficient mass transit. I also like that a portion of the queue focuses on recycling and upcycling and other environmental goals that GM has contributed to as part of their pledge to be carbon neutral by 2040. Those with a keen eye will spot a bevy of Easter eggs and tributes hidden throughout the ride. I got to talk to an Imagineer for a few brief moments about some of them. We spotted a logo for the original World of Motion and the land on the ride. There's also an 82 speed limit type sign somewhere out there. Keep an eye open for that. I like that they generally reduce the number of screens in the ride. However, my favorite room, as I mentioned at the top of this video, is one giant screen. Matter of fact, it's a glimpse into the future of personal transportation that totally immerses you in it. It's over in just a snap, though, and then bam, you're outside accelerating to 65.1 miles an hour again. So that's what you got to do. Got to ride that over and over again to get a glimpse of the future. One great bit of storytelling they've done is by adding the car dodging around the LiDAR scene. You've probably heard of this. It's been talked about a lot. It sets up the truck encounter later in the attraction. I like foreshadowing. It's a wonderful storytelling technique, and it's successfully used here. I honestly don't mind that Test Track is no longer technically themed as a test vehicle. It's more of a demonstration track, but that doesn't quite roll off the tongue, and demo track has a different meaning. So we'll just live with Test Track since that's what people know. All right, let's wrap this up. Test Track, to me, feels like it's trying to find its place in the evolving landscape of Epcot, looking both backwards to the world of motion and forward to a sustainable future. It's no longer about simulating a crash test and more about celebrating the journey and the ingenuity that powers it. And so while some of the visual details may feel less flashy than other new attractions, I like that the underlying message of environmental responsibility and the clever tributes to Epcot's history feels like a solid effort, at least for this Disney blogger. It's a quieter evolution than some might expect, but one that aligns more with the spirit of discovery that Epcot was founded upon. All right, don't head to Test Track at Epcot today to ride. It doesn't officially open until July 22nd. There may be some other previews, and we'll post that on socials when we hear about them. I'm curious to hear how this version sits with you now that I've kind of heard my review, especially if you're a longtime Epcot fan. Does it hit the mark for you? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, and especially if you're still watching the video at this point, please like, comment, and share, and subscribe for me. and then share it with all your fellow theme park enthusiasts. That would really help this blog. And then I will see you in the future, or perhaps even at Test Track.